Welcome to Creative Flux.
Hello, hello.
I'm Pierson,
And I'm Bilal. We're getting our
and
timing down with this now.
yes, we are. And Creative Flux is the podcast for generative AI media. We talk about images, video, music, 3D worlds, all of the above. So we discuss everything in the generative media landscape. It moves very quickly. We were talking about Nano Banana in the past. That one's a big release that kind of brought Gemini and Google media capabilities to the forefront for, I think, a lot of people. It was kind of like a ChatGPT moment for the mainstream in terms of image editing. That and Studio Ghibli, I think, on
Hmm.
ChatGPT
Yep.
back a few months ago. But yeah, we cover all this stuff. We talk about the new things that we're into, what projects we're working on the side, things that we just want to follow the space. So
I'm super passionate about it, as are you. And it's just so exciting. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's a cheat because I feel like it's saying like, oh, I work as an Imagineer or something. It's so cool. My day job's so cool. I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
it's
no,
easy when you just get to go and create these amazing, interesting worlds, which we'll talk about. Speaking of worlds, but for that, I do want to, because you mentioned Nano Banana. It's interesting, because you were talking about, you're talking about the ChatGPT image moment. Because when that happened, apparently, like it was a crazy, insane moment where their servers just couldn't handle like Sam Altman. I remember tweeted about what they added 1 million users in like an hour, some insane figure that mind-boggling figure. Like they were adding those users, and then Nano Banana, apparently the Gemini app became #1 in the App Store
right,
because of Nano Banana, which is, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be surprised because in my head, I think, oh, image editing and image generation, it's cool. But it's been cool for like 2 years, I feel, at this point. But still, I feel like every couple of months, people suddenly they're like, oh wow, you're saying I can take an image and edit it and make it into a Ghibli or a cartoon. They still like, love that. They're still are wooed by that transformation. It's yeah, it's
right.
interesting. And maybe at this point we should just, lean in on it and be like, people will always have this insatiable demand to take themselves and either make them look pretty, add filters and stuff. It goes back to Instagram and even before that, with the artists and stuff. So yeah,
No,
very,
totally. Did
very
you
cool.
see this on X the other day about the usage for ChatGPT? There was an image here, and
About
here,
the Sankey, where how many people use it for coding versus
yeah, it was interesting. Let
images and
me let
stuff.
me
Yeah.
pull this up here and just show the screen because it just proves, how much of a bubble I think we are in terms of familiarity with this stuff. So let me see. Let me pull this up. Might not be the highest quality image here, but if you could see this, here's the breakdown of what people use ChatGPT for. It looks like maybe the bars are more accurate this time versus GPT-5, if you remember that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they
Where like the
figure
60%.
out the y-axis.
Yeah, yeah, the y-axis is actually accurate. But like these are the topics that people use ChatGPT for. And so going from largest to smallest here, 28% of people use ChatGPT for practical guidance, and that's creative ideation, health, beauty, fitness, self-care, how-to advice, tutoring, or teaching. And so that's about 30% of people use ChatGPT as like a mentor in some way, shape, or form. And then right next to it, another 30% use ChatGPT for writing, summaries, critique, or personal writing and communication. So that makes sense. That's 2/3 about, so 60% use it for writing and guidance. And then another 20% seeking information. So looking for information about somebody or something. So 80% is very common use cases of just mentorship, looking for content, seeking information is like Google, essentially, rather than going to Google, they're going to ChatGPT. So 80% is there. And then across the other board, you got technical help, which it seems like that's kind of like practical guidance, but seems more of in the terms like expert coding, math,
Right. Yeah.
um, which is surprising to me. I mean, 4.2% being in computer programming, maybe just because X were blinded, but I feel
Yeah.
like,
I mean,
uh,
I also think most programmers use Cursor or like other IDEs and tools to access LLMs rather than going to ChatGPT and
right.
copy pasting. I bet it was different 2 years ago when there was no other equivalent.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And this is a sampled from 1.1 million conversations. And this is probably, I don't know. I haven't read the privacy policy in ChatGPT. I don't know if you're a paying customer, if they can use like aggregated analytics. I'm assuming you could. I'm assuming on enterprise plans, they don't use that. Maybe. I'm not sure. So we'll see like how this is biased. If it's more biased towards free users versus paying users or not. I don't know. But the interesting thing here is like, being a generative media podcast, 6% is multimedia. And 4% is create an image, 1% is generate, retrieve other media. I don't know what you can really create besides an image.
I think it lets you create charts and stuff. I don't know that. I mean, charts are still images, but I know
Right,
they were trying to get into like Excel or tables and stuff.
right. And I could see them also generating music, and this will segue
Mm,
into that because they have an audio model for their advanced voice mode.
yeah,
And we had discussed in the past how
yeah,
difficult, if they can do audio and voice, is music that much more
right.
difficult? I don't know.
That was always surprising to me that they never integrated Sora into ChatGPT. They just like create a video right there because they
Yeah,
had that
right.
capability. And as a ChatGPT user, you do get Sora credits. So I just don't
Really.
know why they didn't like pull that in.
How is Soar doing? Have you, like, followed, I mean,
No, not
that?
really. I don't think. I mean, the latest update they had wasn't like. I mean, it was good, but it was like the Kling was out. There were so many other models at that point, so I don't think it was a leader anymore. They kind of fumbled that with their initial they came out with Sora, everyone was blown away, but then they just didn't do anything with it for a year, or because I think suspect they just could not get the cost of generation down. I think I've
You think
noticed that consistent theme with both their image generation and their video generation. It's good, but it just takes so many tokens, and other companies have just figured out to do it in a more efficient way. And so
that's
speed
interesting.
and cost are important.
Yeah. I want do you think if you were to make a bet, do you think that OpenAI is still working, like, on improving Sora? Either, like, iteratively improving Sora or creating Sora 2? Or do you think they're kind of moving away from that and letting Goo I don't know, do you think they're still, like, actively working on video gen?
I'm pretty sure they are because OpenAI, for me in my head, I think of them as a consumer product company, and I think that totally makes sense that they would like be focusing on that. And again, I mean, they saw what happened with the GPT Image One, like that was an insane viral moment for them, and I think it makes sense like that and that conceivably can happen with a if they have like a Sora type of like an equivalent video moment
Mhm.
like that. I mean, that would be insane. So I'm sure they're pursuing it under the hood. They're kind of doing everything. In fact, they're doing too much. Like they're
Right,
doing their own chip apparently. I won't be surprised if this company does their own Labubu dolls at this point because they're just all over the place. He's like Sam Altman's doing all these deals and stuff. So it's sometimes you want to focus more. It's like one of the reasons I'm a little bearish on OpenAI because I feel like they don't sometimes show the discipline to just focus on one thing, one or 10 things,
right.
and just do those.
That's a fair critique. I mean, I think what you have to see when you look at it is, does the company like, I think it's good for them to pursue a lot of different things, and do they cut? Like, do they do something and then they cut their losses? Because, you can't do everything, but it's fun as a startup to explore a little bit because some things might be more well received than others, and then they invest more, and it seems like maybe Sora is either they, like, cut back funding or they're working on it and maybe they're doing too much, but also I think it's good for them to try and explore, especially if they can raise the money. Like, if they explore and they don't sacrifice quality, I think that's a key too, because if they're spread too thin and they're starting to release products that aren't fully baked, they feel like beta experiences and they're not clearly beta, like not labeled as beta experiences, like MCPs now in ChatGPT. I think that's beta or it's under developer settings, something. But like, I think that is a sign when you start seeing a company like that the quality degrade because they're doing too much, but I haven't seen that yet. Maybe the IO with Johnny Ive, like whatever product that they're doing there.
I don't even
Uh,
know that's happening anymore. They had the whole thing where the blog post got removed, and then people are like, "Oh no, that was a mistake or something." So, and we haven't heard anything. So I
Right.
don't know. I mean, some these partnerships, I'll believe it when I see it. From what I did hear, though, the thing they were making was similar to the product, the startup release we talked about last week, where you could talk with your thoughts.
Right.
I think that was what they were aiming. They're going for as well, where you can
Really
just like think. I
interesting.
saw a couple of tweets about it that that was the form factor that Johnny Ives was going for, which makes sense,
So
because
like read it.
I've never understood the whole pin, like, oh, wearing like a pin thing on your shirt. I'm like, why? But if it was like if I'm just thinking and it's recording or talking to me via like some under the hood subconsciously, then that makes more sense, I guess, in a way.
So I mean, for people that like just joining,
Yeah.
the thing that we're talking about was a device that sits on your ears, kind of, right? Like glasses, but it was like behind your ears. This was a different form factor. So this is all speculation in terms of what OpenAI is working on, but it kind of just like you wore it and it wasn't a chip in your brain,
Right.
but it could read your thoughts.
Yeah, yeah, and you can send it like to so if you're wearing like a receiver, like I can think and it'll trans I don't know if translate is the right word, but whatever. It just takes that, decodes it, encodes and decodes it, and then sends it to your device. And you can basically hear what I'm thinking in a way, which is crazy. It's like basically telepathy, right? And I was thinking about that. I was like, it's funny because we're basically going towards, everyone's going to become schizophrenic in a way because you're just going to get a voice in your head. Like, you'll just why talk? You'll just be walking around with like a headphone piece in our like ears and just like we're thinking and it's like her, but like it's like one of those classic like futuristic movies where they get so much right, but then they miss the most basic thing. Like, why are these people talking to their AI on a phone? That's so basic. No, you just think thoughts, and then it thinks you get the sound back in your ears.
Yeah, it's so wild. I always just because I've had a lot of concussions in my life, and doing a lot of like brain testing and um it was interesting when I was in high school. And so I always was envisioning, I mean, your brain produces waves when you're thinking and like that they record that and they do testing, but the science is still very young there. But if you can train a, a tr- an algorithm with a lot of data, like if we're just sitting in front of a TV and you're wearing a hat or like a device that just records your emotions and your thoughts when you're watching something. Like if you show somebody an apple and they
Hmm.
have, like, a thing on their head, and, like, in your head, you're saying "apple," but you're not actually saying it, but you're just, like, thinking "apple" because 'cause you're seeing the apple, you're thinking "apple," and, like, what areas of your brain are firing, what brain waves or everything. I mean, you scale that up in terms of millions and millions of billions of data points and parameters. Can you actually train a model that is able to understand rather than, like, tokens, like waves, and then convert that into text?
It's crazy. Yeah. Hey, maybe that's the future of the human race. We just gradually lose the ability to speak language because why do you need language? We're just a thought species. We're just thinking.
Yeah, this is like exactly what we were talking about the other day
This is
with like
brainwaves.
the book where they can't lie
Culture?
to each other.
Or Oh, I thought you meant the culture because the culture series has a species that has a, it's basically a species that just is just brainwaves. They don't even have a body. They're just like floating brainwaves of thought.
That's
Like
wild.
that's the whole species. It's very bizarre. I recommend the culture series to anyone. It's a one of the few not dystopian, depending on how you see it, like sci-fi novels where it basically we reach AGI and the machines take over. But it's great. People love it.
Right. Well, talking about like brainwaves and like craziness, I mean, did you see the meta demos? Because I didn't really.
Yeah, yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool, even though apparently it flopped like twice, which, I don't know. I think a lot of people like, actually gave him credit that Zuck actually did a live recording and, it flopped. So that's like, hey, he was trying something, ambitious. So
Totally.
kudos. Um, but it was, the price point was what I think what stood out for a lot of people. I
eight
went
hundred
on,
bucks?
I think it was like 700 or $800 for like the flagship model, which I mean, compared to $3,000 for like a much thicker 2-year-old Apple glasses, I mean, you can see the price going down. And so I think I can totally see glasses being a great form factor for LLMs. We talked about obviously like having a little device that sits on top, in the side of your glasses, which could, you could like listen in on, but you can also overlay information on the glasses itself. And I think that's going to be super common going forward, where like you pull up to a bar or restaurant and, someone comes and you suddenly get all their information, like, this, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, that's scary. I mean, yeah, you're on a meeting with like your boss or something, and you're just like watching football. You're watching NFL or
Right.
something. You're not in the moment. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, we'll see what happens. But uh, I know we were just talking right before this too about HDR and like worlds and things. I wanted to touch on that. So, um, I don't even know what HDR stands for. High definition
High
something.
dynamic range.
Dynamic range, right?
So apparently, what it is a new technology that pops the colors and contrast pop more. So
Mm.
compared to SDR, which is standard driving range before, I don't know. I mean, this the latest tech apparently. I mean, back in the day, it was used to be. I remember when I was young, it was like HD, man. HD is the shit. And then at some point, it became 4K. But those are resolutions, and then high HDR is more the technology itself. And I remember there was a Sony technology as well. The Bravia had something which I forget, but they had no, was it the display? Because there was a display as well, LCD versus all that. But basically, HDR just better software to create videos that pop more, looks better. And the first AI generated model apparently which supports it called was Ray 3. Ray 2 is out already. We've talked about Ray 2 in the show before, and Ray 2. I don't know if the company is called Ray 2, but it's a decent model. I mean, I think it's up there. I've used Ray 2 Flash, which is the cheaper version of that model, and they have a version of it called Ray 2 Modify, which is it takes a video and you can modify it, like you can try transfer it. So
So
and
Ray
now
2 is a video model?
it's a
Video model.
video and video editing. And now Ray 3 is the latest iteration of that line. And supposedly, very good, has a supports HDR. Also, it is the first reasoning model, video model. So like,
Mm,
in text reasoning, chain of thought where, you ask a question and the model thinks for a while. And apparently in this version in video, you can put in a prompt and it thinks about it and generates a scene, which for me, I don't know how much of that is PR versus like an actual breakthrough. Because why? I mean, I just assumed that's just a pipeline thing, right? I mean, you could just always pipe through a model and optimize the prompt. But apparently, I guess it's baked in to the model itself, and that helps
interesting.
me with it. So I'm not as familiar with the architecture of the model. So, but I did see some examples where the video generator it asked a prompt to do something, and it thought through. It created the first 2 seconds, and then it judged the first 2 seconds, and it was like, oh, I'm going down the wrong direction. This is probably not
Mm.
it. And then it created a new video. So that's actually kind of cool, I guess, if you can self-correct a video generation, because video is still expensive and, takes a while for you to get that feedback loop going.
So correct me if I'm wrong here. So I wish I need to read some papers and I need to understand this space a little bit more technically because I don't have the best grasp on video gen models. I know image like I mean, well, kind of, but video. So image is generated. It's a diffusion model. It's kind of like you generate all at once. It's kind of just like that.
Right. Yeah.
For video, is it a full diffusion model where like every frame is generated at the same time, or is it like iterative where you're generating frame one and then frame two as reference to frame one?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. Yeah, I know I'm less familiar with the video as well. I have seen language of like 8-step inference for some video models. So it makes me think there some diffusion is also going on there.
Right.
I don't think it's that simple as generating 24 frames for 1 second of video.
Right. I
Just
don't think
because I
so.
feel like there's something, and I remember I read something about it that you can't generate it independently because one scene needs to seamlessly move to the other,
Right.
and so you kind of have to
Right.
keep for the consistency to be there.
That
You
makes sense.
kind of that's why video is like so much more expensive than 24 times 5 images, which it's not
Right. Right.
as simple as just generating that
That
amount of
that
images.
makes so
Yeah.
much sense because, I mean, think about it, if it was generating frame 1 and then generating frame 2, 1, that would be very slow, to generate all those frames, but also the consistency between frames, because right now most video gen models are limited by a few seconds, and so if you could actually just, sequentially generate like that, then
Right.
you wouldn't have an issue because like, in the 4 or 5 seconds, you have consistency between frames,
Right.
and you
Yeah.
can't scale that.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense. So it's like the multidimensionality of
Right.
the vectors in that space are very interesting because
Yeah.
linear algebra was kind of mind blowing to me when you start dealing with like, thousand dimension space and now even much bigger for these. It's like blows your mind because we live in 3D space, but
Yeah.
then you're dealing with like numbers
Oh yeah,
and
and I mean, it's the math actually is very fascinating because I don't know the details, but I know there are two methods of interpolation, which is how do you go from frame one to frame two, and there's like a couple of methods that you can use. I forgot the name. I think is Rife is one. There's one, but it's like it comes down to linear. It's like, oh, do we take the stuff and divide by two? Do we weight it? Like, and so it's just like simple mathematical decisions, which it's fascinating to see the output versus like, oh, this using this equation will create this experience where, maybe you have a seamless transition, maybe you have a different. It's like kind of like obviously in web development we have the cubic has your like the linear curves, animation curves where you can have ease in, ease out, ease in, ease out. I mean, there's a whole. It's all mathematical curves. And it's the Bezier curve is very fascinating to see like how the animation itself changes based on the curve you're using. So
right.
similar to I guess a similar thing happens for video, but it is cool though. I actually have thought about just the hacky way of like, because back in the day, I mean, if in the 20s, the way movies were made, like animated movies, writers literally drew 24 panels. Like it was such a painstaking process. They literally drew 24 pages and they would just flip it through in front of the camera. Like that were, it was choppy, but that was the first movies. And I've actually thought about one of the projects I wanted to do is what if you just generate, like use Nano Banana or something, and you generate like 24 images and then you kind of do a flipping, like kind of like those old school cameras, where it's like kind of twirling effects, like a
Totally.
cartoon like that. I think that would be a pretty fun experiment
The
to do.
interesting thing that I like, what we'll look back at these conversations and we'll be like, wow, look how crazy we were thinking. Like video was hard to get beyond 4 seconds. It was hard to do consistency because when we look at like Genie 3, for example, like the
Right,
world models, right?
right.
And you could walk around in a world that's consistent and you see the tree on the wall or the paint on the wall, and then the paint stays, and you can actually have long running minute plus kind of memory where you put something on the wall, it's going to stay there even if you look away. And when you look back, it's still there in the same spot. Because to me, why are we training a video model that's so different than a world model when the world model, like literally a video should just literally have a camera where
Mm,
you have some space that is recording the world model. And if you can get a world model to be consistent over time and just have that space. Like, why are we even dealing with specific video models when you could have the world and then just create the world to be what you want the video to be? And then you have camera control, you can like literally like
wow. So you're literally gonna have a cast, and it's like, okay, this is the studio, lights,
kind
camera,
of.
action, and
I
just
mean, the interface and how you
right,
interact with the world, because like,
yeah.
let's say you go to your VO3 in some program and you say, generate me a horse running across this African landscape and put a tree over in the distance. Right now, what it's doing, it's actually generating that and you have that, and there's no concept of beyond the frame. And so, you have the tree in the background, you have the horizon, you have the African plains, you have the horse, but like you can't say, pan that camera to the left and show the other horses behind it because it just generated that thing. But if instead of generating just the video, you're generating the whole world, where then you're like, actually, no, like move the camera, like zoom the camera out or zoom the
Mm.
camera in, you're actually kind of controlling the camera in the world versus generating just the video. And I think we're going to move towards that because I listened to a conversation between Logan Kilpatrick and Demis. I forget, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the CEO of
Absolutely.
DeepMind. And they were talking about this. Like, there's pretty much saying like they're going to see VO3 and whatever merge or very similarly, like kind of
Yeah.
between Genie and VO.
No, I mean, it's fascinating, and it's something I confess I still struggle to really wrap my heads around world models because I do think they are the next iteration. Like, I think Levels had this tweet today. It was like, oh, it was like 2022 was the year of photos, and then 23 was the year of like avatars or something, and then 24 2025 basically was the year of videos, and 2026 will be the year of world models, which I guess tracks. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, what does that look like? It comes to uh, I guess we'll share the news about World Labs in a second, but it I can see like what you're saying. Like it makes me start thinking about the different angles. Maybe that's one use case, because it's funny because I think about like every time somebody shares a real life TikTok, of an event that happened, which is like crazy viral. Suddenly you on your feed you get the same video, but sometimes somebody is like, oh, but some guy recorded it from this angle, like the instant app, right? And then it's like, oh wow, it's a whole new perspective, right? And so I wonder maybe that's like, that'll happen, be a simulated event where somebody will be like the horse riding, maybe it goes viral for some reason. And then somebody says, well, I took the shot from the side, so if you want it from the
Right.
side, you can do that. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of contrived in my head because I'm like, well, why would anyone care? But maybe they will care, it's something
Right.
that's where you got to be a little more optimistic, techno optimistic that
Yeah, and
will care.
even if so, like, I mean, 2025 was going to be, everyone was like, it's the year of agents. I mean, yeah, right. It's a decade of agents more so. It's going to be the decade of generative media. It's going to be the decade of AI. And I think as developers and people in this space, we kind of over index for some technology kind of getting released, and then you're like, oh, everyone's going to use it right away. It's going to be everything. Like, it's going to be everywhere. And then the reality hits. You're like, people are very, it's harder to change, and it's harder to integrate new technology into the world, much more so than just, hey, throw it out into the world and let people play with it. Sometimes you can, like new paradigms like AI in general, you threw it out into the world, it's kind of embraced. But then when you get a little more finer granularity, like world models, who are the users, what are the use cases, is it for physics simulation in like science labs and design and architecture and engineering? You have to integrate that into the existing systems because you're not just gonna go to those, like the world models, and say design a bridge, and then you're like, okay, now I have a bridge in this world. Like, I'm not, what am I going to do with that? Self-driving cars and vehicle. You have to really think like, how do you bridge the gap from this really cool technology into something that's useful for people? Except in the creative space. The creative space is kind of cool. You throw out the creative tool and you're like, let's see what people make with it.
Yeah, stakes are lower in that sense. I mean, I guess you can be more experimental. But yeah, I mean, I'm I'm sure I'm going to be very surprised at like how people end up using these models. But we know for sure like they will be used in some very interesting ways that will become clear. And of course, we're going to look back. We're like, of course, yeah, that was going to happen. But for
Totally.
now, it's like the future is murky.
Right. There was something, I wanna circle back to the HDR and, like, the dimensions of video and image real quick, because there was a paper that I didn't read fully, but it was very, interesting to me because it was about how to scale up the resolution of image gen to be, resolution agnostic. So right now when you go to right, and it's pretty cool because right now when you go to ChatGPT, and you're generating an image or whatever, it's going to generate like a JPEG or PNG or whatever at some fixed dimensions. And I think they're not that high, depending on what model you use, like Midjourney versus like, you're not going to get super high, ultra high
Right.
def.
I think the best is like Flux actually released a model called SRPO, which I think does 4K or like just really realistic high
Interesting.
res. Oh, sorry. There's one called Dreamina as well. I think Dreamina is by it might be Sea Dance. They have one, which is I think the 4K version. But you're right. Most images are like 1,000 by 1,000.
Right.
So I mean, the
And
HDs.
because it's interesting because it scales quadratically because it makes sense. You have one pixel and you need to scale that density up. So it's gonna like that one pixel gonna turn to four, to keep that square resolution. There was this paper was pretty much saying how they invented a new layer, I guess, um, that is able to, it replaces one of the steps in image gen, not getting too depth into too much deep,
Right.
which is able to scale up any image model to whatever resolution. So it becomes resolution agnostic and it
Oh.
doesn't scale with, like, you don't need to use more compute to generate a higher resolution image. And so it's called InfiniGen, and it replaces with a
Wait,
new
so you're
generate.
saying it doesn't, you can upscale an image and it doesn't require any compute at all? Like it just
Maybe it's linear compute versus
okay.
quadratic, I think.
Yeah, because there are upscalers, but they're ridiculously expensive and slow. Like going from like a I think 1000 by 1000 to like a 2000 by 2000 image, like it's which is a
Right.
four, that's a 4x increase. That takes I mean, it costs money
It
and
costs money and
yeah,
time too. And so I'll read the abstract real quick because it's interesting, and I'll link this back to why it comes back to TVs and HDR in a second. But the abstract says like arbitrary resolution image gen provides a consistent visual experience across devices, having extensive applications for producers and consumers. So current diffusion models increase computational demand quadratically with resolution, causing 4K image generations delays over 100 seconds. So to generate a 4K
wow,
image usually takes, a minute plus, I guess,
right.
according to this. To solve this, we explore the second generation upon latent diffusion models, where the fixed latent generated by diffusion models is regarded as content, blah, 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 blah. Okay, skipping through this. Um, so we present infgen, replacing the decoder with a new generator to generate images at any resolution from a fixed size latent without retraining diffusion models, reducing computational complexity, and can be applied to any model using the same latent space. So it's capable of improving models into high resolution era while cutting down the generation time to under like 10
That's
seconds.
amazing.
So
That's like basically converting every image to an SVG.
yeah, no, it's super interesting because if you have like these good models and then essentially you commoditize the resolution aspect. So
Hmm.
you replace whatever part in that pipeline is actually creating the resolution. And then you train your image and then you put this thing there and then now you can just generate whatever resolution you want without having to retrain the model for higher res.
I mean, I've actually I've seen like I remember I saw some experiments with AI compression, and the problem with AI compression was it wasn't deterministic like a JPEG, which is a lossy compression, but at least like it's inputs outputs. But
All
I
right.
do think there'll probably be a world where the next JPEG or WebP or whatever, it could be an AI algorithm like this. Maybe just stores it as a 120 by 128, latent or whatever,
Well, that's very interesting.
and you can save it as a kilobytes, and then instantly upscale it to like of 10 megabyte image or whatever, right? It saves
Oh,
a
wow.
lot of storage and compute.
Yeah, no, that's
So
super interesting. And the
yeah.
reason why I thought it was cool though, because just going back to HDR stuff is, and like we were talking how the different dimensions of televisions, like we had HD, and then you got 4K, and you got like Ultra HD, and now you have OLED, and like there's all these different dimensions to play with when you talk about quality of an image. So resolution's one. You have how dark are your blacks, how light are your lights, what's like the bleed between your light pixels and your dark pixels, HDR, contrast, all these dimensions, and they all go towards some of them are trade-offs, but they all go towards creating a good image. But in this space, it would be really cool because the problem with resolution right now is like 4K is the where every TV is pretty much 4K now, and 8K never happened is just because there wasn't enough content filmed at 8K and it just is super expensive and that you're not filming at 8K. But if you could actually up
Interesting
the
too. I
bar,
don't know if you know, but I remember 4K was a thing, I think 10, 15. I mean, so, I mean, if, I don't know why we never, because it's just kind of a ceiling we hit. Maybe this content is good enough that we don't need that. You can't really distinguish between 4 and 8K. Maybe it's not worth the
right,
trade off or
right.
something, but it
Especially if
is.
you're at a TV and you're sitting pretty far away from it.
Yeah, and I've heard the TV needs to be bigger than 65 inches or something, I think, for it to matter or something.
Interesting. And it could get expensive with all the pixels, super dense, you know?
Yeah. But it is interesting, like how we basically had this. It's like a scaling law. We had like these small cable TVs, and we went to HD and then 4K, and then if you had extrapolated from 2010 onwards, you'd probably be at 16K now. But we're still pretty much at the same.
Right, right. What are the Retina displays on your phones? Are those like 8K or
It's a good question. I thought Retina display was more of isn't that an Apple specific technology or some? It's
yeah, it is, but a Retina iOS, let's see,
yeah.
iPhone.
But I do think, I mean, the AI will play a huge part in these upscaling. And to your point, like you can create amazing crisp images. I mean, that just is going to make the quality of AI slob even better. Actually, one hack it kind of reminded me one thing. I discovered one model was called Recraft Vectorize, which is so
Mm,
cool. It's especially
right,
for certain images. You can just give it any PNG, JPEG, or any image format. It'll convert it into an SVG, and it does such a good job for depending on the image. Like, obviously, if you give it like an image of yourself, for it, it'll kind of do a blurry, output of it. But if you do like an anime, or I gave it a manga panel, and it just did such a great. You could not tell the difference.
that's
If
cool.
anything, the manga was way crisper, cleaner, and I could zoom into the character's face and the
Right.
speech bubble and the writing. And I'm like, wow,
So this
this
is
model is being very undersold right now. I feel like because you imagine using a lot of, if you have animated assets for your website or something, you could just throw all your like images which are like 2-3 megabytes, just throw them, convert them into an SVG, and just put them in your page, and your page instantly, because images tend to be the heaviest part assets on a web page. Like instantly, you can like lose like 80% of the weight of a web page using
right.
SVGs.
Is this Recraft V3?
Recraft Vectorize. V3
Vectorize.
is their text generation model. It's on
Gotcha.
Replicate. I think Replicate is the only one that has them for now. But
Yeah. This is the kind of what we talked about last week. And so for if you weren't listening the other week, like SVGs are vector-based graphics that can scale easily. Instead of being in pixels, they're in just equations essentially, and you can just scale up and you can zoom in indefinitely, right? And so that's what's super cool about this, because when you take a photo of uh, your backyard or whatever, it's a bunch of pixels, and when you zoom in, it gets blurry and you can't zoom in. But imagine if you could zoom in indefinitely and like actually keep zooming until like the whole screen is one big color of a pixel without
yeah,
any blurriness.
yeah, and
Pretty cool.
it's like kilobytes versus meg. It's crazy, like how
It's so much smaller.
small, lightweight the SVG is, but very powerful. I think there's tons of good ideas. One idea I threw out there, I actually think if you want to create your own handwriting font, this is like, because it actually does such a great. If you give it like your own handwriting or even old letters, like I gave it some like old 18th century letters, it basically converted the whole letter into an SVG, and it did such a good job of capturing the handwriting. And from there, it's about just going to another AI that can then categorize the A's and B's and C's. And if we give it enough of a distribution, you can create a handwriting font of it. The way a font is created is basically right now, if you want to do it, you basically have to write every letter, uppercase, lowercase, and then there's certain characters, and you literally write them one by one in a box, and you upload that file. Like it's literally a file for each character,
Right.
and then you create your own font. So it's a very painful process. It takes there are services out there, they cost, so very manual, costs probably hundreds of dollars. And now imagine just uploading your writing, your essay or whatever, and suddenly, you have your own font
Right.
right there. Yeah. So
That's
somebody
cool.
could make a business out of this and give me 10%.
Could be a yeah. These are the type of things that like could be so fun, just to be like, okay, like monthly hackathon. That'd be a really cool thing for Jellypod. I mean, I remember when we first were talking, one of the things that I really wanted to make sure that we do was give Fridays at least. Like no joke, like, I really want to make sure as a culture we keep Fridays as just play around with stuff, like whatever, like it's competing with priorities, obviously, and so staying focused on like the big items is important, but also giving us kind of the time to play around with these cool tools to see what's out there in a world that's moving so fast, and it's so important. And so just I don't know, it'd be cool to do like a monthly hackathon where it's every
Yeah.
Friday, end of Friday the night, like, hey, throw up on a board all these cool new tech things, go out, play with it. Like the whole day is just like the last Friday of the month. It's hackathon day, and we're
I'll
just
do
gonna
it. I
all
mean,
build.
do you, is that just an internal thing, or are you want to do like a Jellypod hackathon night, invite everyone in the Bay
Oh,
Area there?
I was just thinking more internally where it'd just be cool, like and the last Friday of the month is kind of like a holiday fun Friday day, and everybody comes in and like, and you like have beer and bagels in the morning, beer at night, and then we're just like
Love
all
it.
just building for the day.
It's like that social network where you're just coding and chugging beer. It's like frat boy.
Hey, I mean, coding with a glass of whiskey is super fun.
It is, yeah. I agree with that. I write some beautiful code. I mean, in the morning it's not so beautiful, but in the moment, you feel like you're a genius. But
Totally.
I want to circle back before we get too far off from the world models, because one news we didn't mention, which I thought was very interesting, was World Labs, which is Fei-Fei Li's startup. Fei-Fei Li is one of the OG AI, I guess, godfathers, godmothers. It's like up there with Jeff Hinton and Yoshia Bengio, Jan LeCun, and so she started a startup, World Labs. I think there is like $200 million or something, like a few months ago, I think, or last year, some, and they released their first demo, or one of their first demos, which kind of went viral because it was so cool. And what they did was, you were within, I think, a matter of seconds, you could generate a whole world, like a 3D world, like just with a prompt. And this world wasn't just like a room or something. It was like actually very detailed. Like, so the demo that went viral was the Shire. It literally was, Bilbo's house, like with
Right.
rooms. Oh, this is the library. This is the kitchen. This is the living room. This is the bedroom. And you could go in and walk around, and you can, see it. And it felt so real. And I literally had this visceral reaction where I was like, I want to live here. This is so cool. This
Totally.
would be a great like country house.
No, absolutely. Wait, let's just show it for everybody that's actually watching the video. So this is the World Labs demo that went viral.
Yeah.
Let's show it.
This might be another one, but this is pretty cool too. Uh, this is like a castle or a garden. Oh,
This is,
beautiful. Oh, so now we're in a castle, like Prince of Persia's.
this is the one that is at least pinned on World Labs Twitter account right now.
Yeah, I think this is a newer one, but this is so cool too. I mean, they're just showing off the different worlds you can generate, and all of these are generated, I believe, in 5 to 10, like very little time. Which again, this comes to our question about video. Like, video is taking so long, but like then you can generate a world like in quicker,
Right.
and you can go to their site and generate it for free right now. So it's a pretty cool, opportunity to play around with this kind of stuff.
No,
But this comes to, something like, I remember we were talking about a few episodes back where you're saying we can create our own worlds and, just put them out there and other people can come explore it. It's like a new medium of expression, for us.
oh, it's so cool. I'll have to go through and spend some more time on this Twitter account because like look at this. I mean, if you're watching this, it's a
World
living
within a
room
world.
right here, and if the generation speed is actually super slow, this is what just makes me bearish on video models specifically compared to like world models. Like, look, these are videos. We're watching a video, so why do we need the video models? We have the
Yeah, it
video.
is interesting, like, oh yeah, this might
This
be
is
it.
that's the you could play
I don't
projectile
know. That's a new
Jenga.
thing. He just like, yeah, I guess so. Somebody edited like a Minecraft thing inside the Shire, which is pretty cool.
Right. And it looks like they have like so they have like a camera button on the bottom. This is gonna be so cool. I'm gonna sign up for this beta right after this. So
Wow. Oh, you're saying you click the button and you can interact with the video itself.
like
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
like look at this because you have this camera
Right.
icon in the below right here. So that probably just takes a screenshot of wherever you are. So
Wow. That's so
yeah.
cool.
If you can move the camera around with prompting. So there you go. There's your video model.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, this is the future. I mean, I feel like if you just put your sci-fi tinfoil hat on, ultimately, I do think this is like the future is more like Wall-E, except for hopefully skinny and not fat.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone's just like, plugged in and in their own little matrix world. I think it's pretty cool, actually.
Right,
So,
right, right. Well, I covered a lot of different things. World Labs, in space, image res,
yeah.
all
Yeah, I mean, so much. We didn't even get to Lucy or something, which is another model. They have Dcraft, which is another company that released a video generation and editing model, and they're actually probably the fastest video generation model. So they did, maybe they went down the world. They saw these world models. They were like, video is too slow, and so we should speed it up. And they've been able to generate videos within like almost real time. And they released a new model which could edit video. So you can have let's say you have a video of somebody dancing in like a yellow shirt. You can change that shirt to purple. You
wow.
know, and so yeah, this is the future. Just like worlds, editable video. Everything is just malleable in front of you. You can just like take it, manipulate it, make it your own.
Right, right.
So
It's wild. It's wild.
it's
Well,
wild.
so to wrap up episode 14, Creative Flux, we've talked about a lot of world models, a lot of image, video, everything gen. So stay tuned for next week and goodbye.
Yeah.
See you all.
All right. See you later, guys. Bye.